Okay, so I'm trying to wrap my head around the scale and how measurements and stuff like that works in iclone. Obviously, I'm sure there's something in here that would tell me what things measure, some kind of unit system or whatever. But basically, what I'm trying to get at right now is getting a correlation between the stuff that I draw outside of iclone, such as inside of Flash. Um, let's see, for example, this brick wall, imagine this was like a house or something, and I want to be able to drop it in there. Well, for one, it kind of looks like pretty much whatever I draw, it always kind of does it at the same size. Like this particular brick texture is 1024 by 1024. And this other PNG file here is 1600 frames by, 1600 pixels by 900. So I'm going to drop that in there. So I think the height is going to stay the same, or not even. I think the width is actually what kind of stayed the same, and everything else kind of goes down there. So far, I guess it looks like it's the width that's being somewhat consistent. I still don't know what the size is, but I'm going to delete that. I was told in the forums that the standard block measures 1 meter, or represents 1 meter wide by 1 meter tall. So if that's the case, then this character Mason is obviously taller than 3 meters. So that would make him kind of a giant, something like 10 feet or tall or something, maybe taller than 10 feet. Which that's kind of, it doesn't really matter, he can be as tall as he needs to be. I'm just trying to get like the measurements, or a sense of measurements. And I know that like 3D textures and stuff, they work on some kind of like a scale, like what do you call it? I don't know what the word is. Some kind of multiples of like 128, and then it's like 512, and then it's like 1024, stuff like that. So I kind of decided to put this little experiment together. I drew 3 graphics. Both of these are created at 72 dpi, which is like the standard default on-screen resolution for pretty much anything you see on screen. Obviously, you can have more DPI packed in there, so that when you zoom into something, you have more detail or whatever. But 72 dpi is pretty much your base scale when it comes to graphics and resolution. If you stretch out something beyond that, outside that's already 72, you stretch it out, that's when it starts becoming pixelated. That's when you start noticing those pixels. So anyways, here's my 128 by 128 pixel graphic. I'm going to drop it in here, set it up as a plane, and you can see that, yeah, I can see the pixels and stuff, so it's obviously being stretched. And also, I'm thinking this is being mapped against like a default cube surface. So maybe this is the 1 meter by 1 meter thing that they were talking about. But anyways, that's 128 by 128, and you can clearly see all the pixels and stuff. So it's being stretched out. That's at 72 dpi. Then we go for the 512 by 512 plane. Alright, so obviously the size that it's imported at is exactly the same size as the previous one. So the width has remained, whatever that measurement is. Let's see here. Put these side by side so you can see they are pretty much exactly the same size, even though the pixels sizes are completely different. Alright, so now let's bring in, now let's bring in that 1024 by 1024, and again, all of these are actually done at 72 dpi. So there's really so Well, on a standard graphics package, I mean, you would be able to tell the difference between these the sizes. Here, everything's being scrunched up to some kind of default cube scale or something. I have a feeling if I draw an entire wall of like a castle or something and just import it this way, it's going to import it at whatever the length of this block is, and I would have to like stretch it out. So, which is fine. I just, I'm looking for some kind of like what to base my calculations on so that I can account for those sizes. Actually, let me back up a little bit. For example, if this cube is 1 meter by 1 meter, and I resize this particular graphic down to that size, let's see. Almost there. So that's about right. Let me push this to the front a bit so it'll be aligned to that front face. Alright. So that 128 by 128 graphic, I mean, obviously it becomes harder to see those pixels, but it's probably still being stretched out a little bit from what I can tell. And of course, I don't really know what the default like distance or whatever is, so I can have everything at 100%. So that doesn't really matter too much. I guess for the time being, the best course of action is just to continue making my graphics as high resolution as possible and importing those, and that way I can stretch them out or whatever as I need to without losing that, without getting pixelated. But ideally, because I'm going to be using a lot of these, I don't want to stress out the CPU or the GPU too much. I want to keep everything optimized as possible so that I can actually use more graphics and more elements on screen at the same time. It would be very nice to know what the scale ratios and stuff are for creating graphics that can just be imported directly into this software.